In this example, I need to simplify the square root of 84 minus the square root of negative 24. So looking at the first term in my expression, the square root of 84, 84 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to need to factor it into factors that are perfect squares and non-perfect squares. There are many ways to factor 84. It doesn't matter which way you do it. It's an even number, so 2 divides into there 42 times. 42 is even. 2 divides into there 21 times. And 21 is 3 times 7. Here are all my prime factors. I'm going to group these two together and these two together. So I'm going to have the square root of 2 times 2 is 4, that is a perfect square, and 3 times 7 is 21, that has no perfect squares in it. Now let's go on to the second term. Be careful. A lot of students see the negative outside the square root and the negative inside, and they want to multiply them together. You cannot do that. So you leave the negative outside. And how do you deal with the square root of a negative number? Hopefully you remember how to do this. So here are the notes. And we're going to use the imaginary unit I, where I is the square root of negative 1. So if b is a positive real number, then the square root of negative b is I times the square root of b, leaving you with the square root of a positive number that you know how to deal with. So that's the first thing we're going to do, is we're going to take the square root of negative 1 out of this radical as an I. So I'm going to have I times the square root of positive 24. Now on this first term, I'm going to use the product property of radicals to write it as the square root of 4 times the square root of 21 minus I. Now 24 is not a perfect square, so let's factor it. It's 4 times 6. I'm going to leave 4 alone since 4 is a perfect square. 6 is 2 times 3, so I'm going to group those together too. So I'm going to write my square root of 24 as the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. So first term, what's the square root of 4? 2. The square root of 21 won't simplify, so I get 2 times the square root of 21 minus I times, using the product property of radicals, this becomes the square root of 4 times the square root of 6. First term is totally simplified, leave it alone. Minus I, the square root of 4 is 2. And the square root of 6 doesn't simplify. So I'm going to get 2 times the square root of 21 minus 2I, the square root of 6. Unlike terms can't combine, that is my answer. Now I've shown every little step here. You can sometimes jump from here straight to here. That is fine. But I just wanted to show you all the details.